Hey there, listeners. Well, this week, the podcast has reached a massive milestone. 5 years ago, I launched this podcast from a place of uncertainty and loss and with purpose. Now, we're nearly 750 episodes. In fact, this is episode 749. And the Leadership is Changing podcast has become a trusted voice for leaders around the world. Now, this is a story that I'm going to be sharing about today on what it takes to lead and stay consistent and find your voice literally. So let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Welcome to the Ask Denis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, experience, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, hey there. Hey, welcome to the Leadership is Changing podcast. I'm your host, Denis Gianoutsos, and today is a special one, a special episode. We're celebrating 5 years since the podcast was launched. And when I think back to how all this started, it wasn't from a place of triumph or success. In fact, it was the opposite. I'd just come out of major surgery to remove a tumor in my throat, yes, on my vocal cord, actually, my left vocal cord. And let me tell you, when the very tool that you're using to coach, to speak, to facilitate, and communicate is under threat, it really starts to shake you to the core. And there was this moment when I didn't know if I would be able to speak again properly. But it was in this silence of recovery after the surgery and so forth that a new fire was lit. I wanted to launch my own executive leadership development company that would help work with leaders right around the world. And so we launched that organization called Leading Change Partners. Then just a short few years after launching it, then came COVID. And I lost business practically overnight, actually, like so many others around the world. But instead of sitting still, I asked myself this question: what can I create that brings value to others, no matter the situation? And I had been thinking about starting a podcast, and the Leadership is Changing podcast was born 5 years ago this week. And at the time, I didn't have a studio, I didn't have any fancy equipment, just a laptop, a microphone, and a message that needed to be shared. Now, if I fast forward to now, we're closing on 750 episodes. The show has grown into a global platform. It's become a go-to resource for leaders who want to stay relevant, adapt, and lead with impact. Now, along the way, people have started to call me Mr. Consistency. And I've got to say this, the word that I say in my keynote and other things that I do in facilitation, going from average to excellence or going from average to extraordinary, it comes down to this one key word. And the key word is consistency. Now, people calling me Mr. Consistency, I take that as a huge compliment because this is what we've done. And the one lesson I've got to say that I've learned over the last 5 years, whether it be in podcasting and business or health or leadership, it's really coming down to this. To succeed in anything worthwhile, you must have discipline, focus, and consistency. It's not about being perfect. So that's a catch, right? Because for a lot of people, the consistency and so forth, but they want to be perfect. And it's not about that. It's actually about you showing up, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when you feel like no one's listening, even when you feel it's not perfect yet or it's not ready yet. It's how you are showing up. Because eventually, people will listen. But you have to lead first. In other words, you've got to take that leap of faith. You've got to be able to adapt and step forward and lead first. Consistency really is a leadership principle. When you're consistent, you build trust. You start to build momentum. You can build a reputation, not for being the loudest voice in the room, but for the voice that keeps showing up with value, with insight, and with presence. And that's what I aim to do with this podcast, listeners. And I've had the absolute pleasure or honor of interviewing some of the world's top leaders, game changers, and thinkers. And also through our Ask Denis episodes, I've shared insights that I've gained from over 30 years of leadership experience working with executives and teams across different industries, continents, countries, and it's been amazing. And the best part? We're only just getting started. I don't even feel like I've scratched the surface. And so that is what's really exciting about things going forward, right? So we're going to be launching some programs. And what I find is that there are communities out there and people are looking for a community to be part of. And for a lot of leaders, they tend to be lonely. There's not really that many communities. Or you have to be in it to actually qualify. You've got to be doing over $1 million US a year, or you've got to be doing a whole lot of other stuff. So what about a community that brings leaders together who are high performers or have high goals, high expectations, or are wanting to go to those levels as well? What happens if we can pull that community together? And so we're going to be looking at doing that very soon, but also we'll be looking at actually some programs around training, because there's this other group of people that I've noticed out there today. They're in the corporate world, or they're in any business, medium-sized and small businesses. Their organization may invest in the people, but I've always said to people, never wait for your organization to invest in you. If they do, that's really the cherry on top of the cream, right? That's all very nice. But I've always invested in myself. I've always gone and invested in courses and mentors, coaches, things like that to help develop myself. I've never waited for my employer to do it. And the thing here is this. There is people out there who want to be part of something, who want to join something like that. And so hence I'm going to be launching something very soon in relation to that. Now, listeners, to all of you who have listened, shared an episode, left a review, or reached out to tell me what an insight meant to you, a massive thank you. You're one of the reasons why I keep going. So here's to the next 5 years. I'm excited to keep bringing you world-class guests, fresh insights, and practical tools to help you grow as a leader. And remember, leadership isn't a title, it's a decision. And when the world changes, leaders must change too. Thank you for celebrating this moment with me, and let's keep leading, learning, and growing together. Listeners, your call to action is this. If this podcast has made a difference for you over the years, I'd love it if you could leave a review or share this episode with a fellow leader. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, because we've got some powerful conversations coming your way. There you go, listeners. See you in the next episode. That's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.